Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Managers of Reddit. What was the worst case of I demand to speak to the manager you've experienced? Part 2. I was busy at Christmas at an old job sorting out wrapping paper, etc. The queue got large, so I jumped on the till. A customer approached and complained about having to pay 5p for a plastic bag. The charge just started. She said she wasn't going to pay, so I charged her and asked for the next customer. She moaned that she wouldn't be able to carry everything. I asked for 5p. She asked to speak to my supervisor. I said I'll go get him. I left the tills, turned a corner, waited a few seconds, and reappeared, informing her I was in charge. I worked at a gas station. Customer came in red-faced and stood at the counter. I greeted him and he started spouting off a tirade about how we cheated him on the price of gas. Since he didn't come in and pay cash, I assumed he paid credit. I explained to him that credit is a few cents more than cash. You can't do that! There's nothing saying that anywhere! I gently explained that the LED sign has cash next to the price, as well as a sign on top of the gas pump itself breaking down the cash/credit prices. It's a large display. He adamantly refused to believe the signage was out there, so I left the counter, walked him out to his car, and pointed to the sign above the pump. That wasn't there before! You're tricking me! WTF, dude, how could I have done that? This is fraud. I'm calling the police. Sure. Go ahead, sir. I'll be inside. Police came, dutifully listened, wrote a report, and then sent him on his way. Obviously, nothing came of it, but wow. He was so angry. I had a woman call to tell me that she spent too little on an ice cream cone. We had a special that was like 2 scoops in a waffle cone for $5, and for some reason, she only got 1 scoop and said she didn't know about the special, despite there being signs all over the shop about it. She claimed that my worker didn't offer it to her. I didn't focus on upselling at our store, so this wasn't a big deal to me. I apologized to her, but I was also like, what exactly do you want me to do about it? This happened yesterday. I'm assuming you ate the ice cream, so you can't return it. She wanted a refund anyway for the inconvenience. I asked if she had a receipt. She said she didn't. I said no-go without a receipt. She said she didn't get one at checkout. I explained to her that in my state, we're not required by law to give a receipt for cash-purchased food service items, so if she didn't ask for one, tough tease. She kept pressing, saying she demanded to speak to the manager. I explained that I was the manager. She then asked if there was another manager she could speak to. I told her no, I was the end of the line, top of the heap. No one else was going to tell her anything different. She huffed and told me she would be by to discuss it in person. She never came in. Used to work in call centers doing tech support for a home broadband company. One member of my team, Victor, was a lovely fella. Absolutely one of the nicest people I've ever met. He was from Niger and had the thickest West African accent you've ever heard. Anyways, he was helping this one customer who wasn't having it that he had a line fault and engineer would need to attend. He was flipping his ass left, right, and center. Asks to speak to a manager. I get pulled in. Hello, sir, what's the issue? This idiot I've been talking to refuses to fix my broadband. Well, sir, Victor has told me the issue, and I agree that you need an engineer visit. And another thing, why am I speaking to an Indian? Pardon? Why am I speaking to an Indian? You're not, sir. I'm English. Not you, the idiot before. He was Indian. Well, not that it's important, but Victor is actually African. Pfft, they're all the same color. It was at that point I hung up and forwarded the call to legal. F that ass. I worked in a nice little geek shop that sold used books, games, memorabilia, guitars, etc., and this kid was buying Attack on Titan stuff, and they were talking about the next one. I never watched the show, and they said rhetorically, I wonder what the wall is made of. So I said, the wall? It's made of people. The wall is made of people. And they laughed since they either got the Soylent Green reference, or at least thought it was a funny thing to say. Well, their mom/grandma didn't like that one bit, and after they paid and left, she came back in furious and demanded to see the guy who gave away the ending of the book. The kids were saying that I was just joking and didn't even see the show/read the manga. I came over to see what the problem was, and she said, if I find out you spoiled the ending of that book, I will have you fired, and some nonsense. I apologized and explained I was making a joke, didn't know the first thing about the show. Was never brought up again, but those kids were super embarrassed. Red Lobster. Lady said to me, waiter, I am going to feed my child with endless shrimp. Now, you may think you will charge me? Don't. If you charge me, I will just call corporate and get free gift cards and come back and eat again. I responded, I have to charge you and that my manager will be over. I told the manager and she said, when she calls corporate, that gift card money comes out of our bonus money. Basically, corporate effing us managers, and yet corporate automatically sends gift cards the moment you call, and they also train me to charge her for the extra shrimp. Basically, a lose-lose. F Darden. Not a manager, but I used to be a developer at a very small firm. I was the one who answered the phones, either because I was the only one with social skills or because I was the only woman. Either way, one time, this very unpleasant man called and asked some questions, and I directed him to our online form for prospective clients. He got huffy and said he wanted to speak to a developer. I explained that I was a developer, just one who also answered phones. Him. That can't be right. You sound so young. You must be somebody's daughter or something. Me. I mean, that's technically true. 21-year-old female here, 19 at the time this happened. Worked at a popular quick service, aka fast food chain. Was listening to one of my crew members interact with a customer in drive-thru. The customer was asking a lot of questions about prices on meals with/without drinks, but wasn't really listening and asking the same questions over and over. My crew member, I'll admit, definitely had a sassy attitude, but part of the reason I was listening in on them was because she was being so patient with this customer for once. At one point, my crew member accidentally said the wrong price. You know how often you jumble up words when you're speaking off the top of your head? The customer gets quiet, then says, "You know you're BSing me, right?" and proceeds to freak out over our DT speaker asking to speak to me. I take over on the headset and try to explain to her that my crew member accidentally said the wrong word, that her meal without the drink would indeed be cheaper, etc., etc. She wasn't having it. She cuts us off and comes to the window, still going off. She asks me, "What the H is wrong with you?" And I have zero idea what she means, so I ask her, "What do you mean?" We're obviously idiots, so she says, "I mean, what the H is wrong with you?" Okay, it basically went on like that for a good 5 minutes. She was just accusing us of pretty much nothing, just yelling that we're liars and BSers and the like. I'm absolutely dumbfounded. After people behind her started honking, I think eventually I just gave her the meal for free to get her the heck out of there. Also pretty sure she asked for the corporate number, which I gladly gave her along with my name and a restaurant number. Try explaining whatever the F we did to her to corporate. The next customer that comes up to the window immediately goes, "D, that bee was crazy." Made the whole thing worth it. I worked the customer service desk at a grocery store. One afternoon, a guy came storming over after getting checked out and threw a package of beef in front of me. He starts going off, yelling and cussing at me because he was supposed to get $3.54 discount, but the register only took off $3.53. He was screaming at me that he wanted his penny back and that it wasn't even about the penny, but it was the principle of the thing. By the time he was through, he had yelled at me, my customer service manager, and our store manager on duty. As soon as I gave him that penny though, he shut right up and left. Principle of the thing, I guess. I used to work at the concession stand/cafe at the Tennessee Performing Arts Center. We had snacks like potato chips and candy, as well as pre-made sandwiches from a local sandwich shop. We only got a certain number of sandwiches for each day, so when we ran out, that was it. This one lady who was in a wheelchair came through my line telling me how she was diabetic and needed to eat a meal. I showed her that we had trail mix, candy, and chips, but she absolutely could not eat any of that because she was diabetic. It had to be a sandwich and nothing else. I told her we literally didn't have any sandwiches left, but she just kept repeating about how she was diabetic and she was told there would be sandwiches. She was being incredibly rude to me, making a scene, and said, "I was told there would be sandwiches," probably about 10 times. By this point, there was a long line forming behind her, and she was making a scene. She asked for the manager, so I told her she could step out of line and wait for the manager, but she wouldn't budge. The manager came over and told her the exact same thing that I had. She eventually calmed down, moved out of line, and agreed to have chips and candy for free. I don't know who the F told her about the sandwiches, but I want to slap them. I was kind of the assistant manager at the retail store I worked at. We were relatively small, and our actual manager bounced between our location and another one, so she wasn't around every day. If she wasn't around, all "can I see the manager" questions went to the employee who was there the longest and was acting manager. Most of the time, conflicts were easily resolved, and we didn't need to call our actual manager. After a long-time employee quit and moved away, I was second in rank under my manager. I was the youngest person working at the store. I had just graduated high school and worked for the store for about a year. All the other employees had only been working for 4 months or less. We had a high turnover rate because mostly college students were hired and it was the start of summer. It was one of our slow days, so it was just me and my middle-aged coworker working. Let's call her Jen. Jen was 25 plus years my senior, but this was her first retail job and just needed some extra cash on the weekends. We sold high-end products with specific warranties. I was on my break, so it was just Jen on the floor. Our manager was on vacation out of the country, so we could only reach her by Facebook. This angry woman comes in demanding a new pair of high-end sunglasses because the screw came undone on her pair, which made the glasses lose and inevitably pop the lens out. This happened while she was in a parking lot, so when the glass lens fell out, it shattered. Her 1-year warranty was up, so we could only offer her 20% or so off a new pair, or she could contact the manufacturer directly to see if there was a faulty part. We are always told of faulty parts and recalls, so she just didn't tighten her glasses when the screw was loose. She was not happy about her options, so she went off on poor Jen. Angry woman then asked to see the manager, who was me that day. When I came out and asked her what the problem was, she was fuming. She didn't believe that I was the manager. Granted, I do look young and I have a high voice. She called me a bunch of names and started going off on Jen again. She asked if Jen was the actual manager and only said I was to get out of the situation. I kept telling her the options we could offer and she continued to scream. Finally, she left, but not after throwing her $300 sunglasses on the ground as she walked out and left. They were definitely beyond repair or warranty now. After, I Facebook messaged my manager, who was on my side. She told me to clean up the glasses and throw all the parts in the trash. Funniest part is that the manufacturer only allows repairs if all the parts are there when sent in. Without the pair of glasses, she wouldn't even be able to get a replacement lens or screw. I quit after that summer and I never heard a complaint about the incident. If you want to watch the part 1, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.